everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today we are starting May's Big Art Quest. May is a very exciting month. This is the reference photo that we're starting from. If you're really new to the Big Art Quest, this started out as a weekly explanation of fine art materials and ideas that can seem complicated to beginner and making them simple. We did a year of that. That went really well. And then we did a year of faces, and that went really well. And so this year we're doing fairy tales. May, I am doing a koi inspired mermaid. We meet weekly and do a little bit of the painting and design work and a little bit of the painting and design work. And that way you guys, as students at home, have a chance to digest the techniques, the materials, the colors, and not feel like under a lot of pressure to get it done. If you check the material little information below, you're going to see links to the website. That's where all the big art quests are kept. That's all stored there. You're going to also see the information for this. We do have a traceable, and we'll be adding more supplemental materials to that. And there is the reference photo. But in this course, and this is something very important to realize, is that the reference lets us know things about positioning, and it lets us know things about lighting. But it doesn't necessarily be something that we're going to completely stick to. We'll talk about that in a second. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
He's going to be tracking you with the camera. Tracking, not you. That would be so creepy. Me with the camera. So don't worry. Don't have to put tape over your little computer's little green dot. It's okay. He's going to be tracking me with the computers and making sure that you guys have everything you need at home, answering questions in chat, directing some questions at me. That's what we're doing. I'm going to sip my coffee. I'm going to get in, and we're going to talk about what we're doing this design, and then we'll start putting in the background painting. Are you guys kind of excited about her?
Oh my gosh, yes. Everyone is very excited. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are waiting for some mermaid time.
This is going to be a lot of mermaid time. This is going to be based on a lot of the mermaid artists you've been sharing with me. I'm a fan of mermaids. We have a couple aquatic mermaids coming through this fairy tale season. She really fascinated me. I haven't done that red-haired mermaid yet because I've almost been avoiding it over that it's so saturated because of Disney's version of Ariel. But I really like the look of this. I like the idea of a pond. My issue with this reference was I didn't necessarily love the costuming or the surroundings, even though they were really good information. This particular photographer is always really responsible about lighting her subjects. When you're picking references to work from, photographers are not all equal for artists. What we're always looking for is a photographer that's careful enough to bring in their own lighting or recognize a perfect lighting moment on in the wild. And she's definitely one of those. And this is on the website. Now, she's going to be koi inspired. So when we're doing her, instead of having a green costume, right, we're going to be costuming her with things you might find in a pond, and she's going to be colored like fancy koi. Now, when you're trying to do a design like this, I think it's important to stop and think, well, what do I expect to see in a koi pond? If there were a magical unicorn-infested forest, where a mermaid who lived in a pond who was fresh water, what types of things would I expect to be there? Well, in the reference, if John throws the reference up while I'm talking, it's very green, but there's not a lot of, flowers. There's not a lot of kind of like beautiful, falls or things that I would really want. And if you'll notice, it's really missing a lot of koi. I did like the color of the water, even though I wanted to take it a bit more aqua. So I'm going to have to definitely think about that. And in thinking about that, I realized I wanted to, in this this part of the canvas here, we're going to drop some wisteria down in our foreground. Okay. So we're going to be working that and putting a little bit of this style of wisteria, this beautiful style of wisteria. Again, see how there's a fall here? Because we expect to see falls in this. So we're definitely adding a fall to this piece. Now, this is actually from the garden that Monet painted in. This is from Monet's garden. You can go tour that. This particular bank is one of my favorite banks in the garden, and we're going to add this feel. We're also going to add a little bit of a bonsai close to the fall that's got a little cherry blossom, some pulled down moss in the background. We're going to play with dramatic lighting. And we're going to make sure that first and foremost in our pond, we have some koi. And so I've got a couple references here. And the reason I picked these two is I needed to see how the koi are impacted by distance. Like, what do they look like when they're far away? How would we paint the pond and show that there's a little koi here or a little koi there? And also, as their depth changes, how that impacts how we see them and some water surface. And again, what's here? Falls. So you know we have to have one in the painting. So now you know, turning the mermaid into a koi. We're adding koi to the pond. Got to have some water lilies. Got to have some flowering banks. Got to drip some wisteria. Probably got to have fairy lights and a fall for sure. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm going to take a deep breath and we're going to jump right on in.
Wow. This is going to be really cool. A freshwater mermaid.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's going to be special. So everyone that hangs in and completes this piece is going to love it. There's 12 paintings this awesome. This is where you take all those art skills you've been working on and turn them into something.
Yeah, so
All
this
right.
is a little more than, a one.
Yeah,
on our
this is
scale.
definitely not a 1 or a 2 hoot. This is in the upper range of a 3 hoot. And what I would say is usually when one is doing this, you kind of pay, like, this is a workshop that you would normally take, and you would go for like a week and you would work on this painting with an instructor, and it's a lot of money. But we're just doing these for free because the art supplies, that's what you need to be spending your money on. Everybody knows it. I'm going to put out my underpainting colors. In this one, I am going to do an underpainting simply because I want a richness and depth to this space. And so I'm going to build up from that. I'm going to use, this is burnt umber. I'm going to put in some phthalo green. All right, I'm going to put in some phthalo green. I'm going to see if I can get by with a little phthalo blue and doxazine purple. And I'm going to just work in a value set for everything as I'm going. And also, I might, if we have time blocker in, John's going to watch the clock. We try to meet for about an hour and not too much more.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot to take in. On paintings this size, you're really taking in a ton of information. And I've got the little white to lighten my value or darken my value if need be, or, make my value more aquatic. Oh, special material, you might ask. Why this iridescent gold paint? I'm playing with the idea based on an artist y'all keep sending to me, the idea of making some of her scales a little bit gold. We'll see how that goes. If it's going to look good with the bright colors in her scales, we're definitely going to do that. Yep. Let's put out a little cad yellow. I'll go back over the color list once I have them all out. And again, you have the complete list. If you're in the Big Art Quest group on Facebook, you will have the total list of materials for the year, because I put that there. So you would know, like, if you wanted to do all 12 paintings, what you were looking at.
Miss Henry was asking,
hi, Miss Henry.
Will you post up all the references photos that you have there?
Yes. All of the references are going to go onto the website. I just had to find some more because I was like, how am I going to explain this depth thing? And I realized we can't paint what we can't see, and you can't extrapolate it out of my mind until I should put it on the canvas for you. So it's going to really help you. So yeah, we're going to add those to the website.
Okay.
So definitely check out the website link. Definitely check out the Facebook group. Yeah. And, we're going to just truck along. We're still finishing up last month's quest because I got a little bit behind.
It was big. It was a lot to cover.
It was big. It was very big. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of block in the background. Where I have the fall is going to be darker, and a lot of this is going to darken up. And then I'm going to build these pops of green into this. So the first thing is to start creating, a nice value set. I'm going to grab a number 8's cat's tongue. This is one of my well-loved cat's tongues that needs a reshaping. But before I do that, I'm going to take advantage. I'm dipping in water. And I'm going to get into my background color, and I'm going to kind of create a chromatic black. And what I mean by that, it's not going to be true black. I'm adding water to improve flow. But the value set's going to be quite dark where I'm running the waterfall down. Waterfalls are often, because the rock is wet, darker. So see how I'm using the purple and the phthalo blue. So I've got my titanium white, my Dox purple, my phthalo blue, my burnt umber, my phthalo green, my cad yellow, a little glazing medium. This is only this company makes this exact product. This is gloss glazing liquid, but it's not actually just a glaze. It's also a slow drying extender. Means your paint goes further and it doesn't dry as quickly and it's easier to blend. That's what they're talking about. All right, let's see how we're doing on our little color here. So there is, you know, a nice little sense that there's a shore bank here and maybe a rock that kind of comes out here. And we know we've got a little shoreline coming down here.
You're just sort
So,
of
yeah,
sketching in with your
I'm going to
brush.
sketch this in with my paint. I'm going to block in with my paint. I can always move things. I'm just trying to create a space where there's a bank, right? And I'm going to just paint this in very dark.
And you're just using a, which brush are you
Number
using?
8. What?
You're using a number 8?
Yeah, number 8 cat's tongue.
Okay, cool.
And notice I'm not being too precious about it. I might get a little more precious when I'm painting in her base. Right? And I'm trying to decide actually still how I want to do her base in because I want her to, I'm really playing with going in the full red and white koi instead of the red, white, and black koi
Ooh.
or the gold koi. I just want her to be red and white because of her hair. I'm not saying we're going to rogue up her hair for those of you that watch the X-Men, but we might. I got to do some watercolor studies to see what I'm thinking about it. Sometimes you've got to do that. You've got to do some studies. Look how messy this is back here.
It's very messy.
It's very messy. And that is because right now, what I need is just a deep, dark coat of paint. We're going to pop little areas out that are catching light, and we're going to make some of this very green and lush and well established.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing, I don't think, the pool as a waterfall. I'm not really feeling the pool as much. I kind of want something that's like natural coming down some rocks that we might have, and I want to get this in. Now she's got her little rock here, but we've also got the water, so I'm going to rinse out this brush. And I'm going to give myself kind of a basis for this green in the pond, and I'm going to take my burnt umber and my phthalo green together, and I might add a little of my phthalo blue. And it's going to make a very deep color. I'll add my glazing medium to it, so it's going to get out there nicely. And I'm going to just make sure that I've got this in here. Now, we're going to see some of her below the water, and I'll add that in a second, but we just want to get this base color in. I'm going to go around the tail. You guys, of course, have a traceable if drawing in your mermaid and adding the tail. Because what I've got is I've got her tail coming down under the water a little bit, coming back out and flipping back. You know, for gesture.
For additional drama in the tail?
Drama in her tail. She's sassy.
I can see that.
You know, she's never been to the ocean. She has no idea what's going on in the deep blue sea. And she is the flyest fish up in this bank.
I would have to say, you know, there's a lot more going on inland.
You know, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not an ocean goer. So.
And I think it's important to know, like, you know, hey guys, I'm just throwing this in right now and I'm just getting these colors sort of blocked in. Right? Because that's what we've got to do.
Yep.
Now, if you have a regular printer, what I did to get her sized correctly for this canvas is I took the traceable and I set it on the scale setting of my printer and just increased its size by 140%, and that made her. Oh, and I cropped in because it may take your thing off the crop, so you may have to get exactly the scene and blow her up a little bit. That's what I did. That's how sometimes I'll use like the smaller traceables when I want to size up or do something different. There's also a bunch of programs that will allow you to tile your traceables to whatever size you need.
Cool.
So you're not, say, just more dark kind of greenish water, and I'm pushing my bank back as we do. Now, I will probably, and I've been doing this for the other ones, I will probably update the traceable at the end of the quest. So if you're coming here months after we've done it, there's probably even a more updated traceable and you can see the finished painting. But for the brave souls who come early, you get to discover it as you go. And that's the benefit of being early. So again, you know how normally I'm like brushstroke, water, water, water. We'll do that. But again, this is just our first. I might push this bank back as I'm looking at it, wanting to push it back. So I have room to drop these flowers over the front like in Monet's pond. And actually we'll be visiting Monet's pond, that reference again for another painting really soon. Because I really like that pond and there's a lot to say about it. And I will continue to paint it. So I'm just adding the phthalo blue to the burnt umber and just coming in here and around her little rock like you do. And I might make sure this pulls up a little bit, even though. So you have to remember when you look at a cup, like when you're looking at water, water has a level, right? So the trick about her coming out of the water, in the water, is that you just make sure things are level and they will look correct. See, I'm just loosely, crazy, wildly messy painting. When you're a messy painter like I am, and I am a messy painter, the nice art word for this is expressive. But sometimes when you're messy with your painting and people see it in the early stage, I'm grabbing a little purple and a little blue, and I'll come along that little bank. And I'm just making sure her bank is, she should have an interesting bank, right? For sure, for sure. Little green, little brown, little green, little brown. So sometimes when people see your painting in the early stage and it's a little messy, they can be a little weird or dismissive because if they can't visualize it, they assume that you can't. And I got to tell you, you know that meme, all that wander are not lost? That's an important meme for us artists too, because a lot of times we're wandering on our canvas. We're working some stuff out, but we're not lost, right? That every brushstroke is not like a considered little perfect pinpoint of light into the universe, right? Does not mean I don't know exactly where my painting is and how it's going to come out. But I know that there are some things that are going to work themselves out. And I guess it's the difference between like cooking and baking. You know how like when you're cooking, you can kind of like eyeball the amount of water sometimes you need in a pot and not be that stressed about it.
It always stresses me.
But other things like baking, man, you better know exact amounts or it ain't happening.
I think that's what it is. I'm a baker.
So So I'm going to make sure that I've got her kind of like roughed in, even though I really have to finish her tail at the end. I just want to get her somewhat in so that as I'm layering things, they layer well together and they are seamless. I'll get, I guess, my number 4 cat's tongue. If I have, I do, I have a clean one. And I think what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do that, the red and white koi's, I'm going to just start her out. Most of her base, right, I will just do in this sort of off-white color. Her skin tone, right, is going to be very reflective of her scales. And so will be very fair. Probably one of the fair skin tones we've done on any of the quests. But like maybe only the geisha is fair. She was pretty fair with that lead makeup. Right. So you can even be like, hey, I know I've got some tail that's coming under here. Okay. And I'll talk about that a little bit. You know we're going to be adding it. And remember, like as things get deeper in the water, right, they'll show less. So some of her tail will have like waterline and be a little more defined, and some of it will be murky and distant.
Yeah.
But what you're saying to yourself here when you do this is you're like, hey, there's more going on. I know I got some tail under the water. Got to keep track of that. Things that are in my mind. Sometimes when you're painting, you can get lost in a piece. That's easy to do. I'm going to load up some glazing medium on my brush so that it flows off nicely. I'm just blocking this in. You can with the water's edge. Right, so don't feel at all ever trapped or unable to correct, fix, or change something that you are quite serious about. You have to decide, how big is my mermaid? How big is she?
I don't know.
So I'm gonna make sure, I'm just gonna get all of her body in with this, and then her hair I'll probably put in with just the burnt umber. And that's just a nice base shade for red hair in general. So I'm gonna take advantage of it.
I like that you're doing a redhead.
It's been, I haven't, when did have I done a redhead on the channel? I've done so many paintings.
You know, I remember a lot of owls.
Do you?
You know, you did a lot of girls. Girls in the Rain. They've had, I remember some auburn hair from the back that could have been redheaded.
I mean, I did the how to do different hair colors videos, and so we covered red hair there. And I think I had that one Sherpa girl in the giveaway painting that had red hair.
And I'm thinking of the steampunky kind of girl.
She did have red hair. That's right. Our steampunk girl, if you're a very, very new painter and this is just a big ask, you might want to try the steampunk girl. She is a much more beginner.
I remembered one.
You did.
There's a lot of them though.
There's a lot of them. So you can see how I just sort of got that into the, the fingers of her thing. And then if you want to show the difference between, oh, I want her arm to seem different. Well, something her arm's going to be in a little bit more light than her. So you can paint it in just slightly a lighter tone. And then you'll notice between the lines and that, you're keeping that space. If you're easily disrupted by somebody saying something negative, my 2 cents is that don't show your painting to anybody who doesn't already know that you have what it takes to do this.
Right.
In this stage of it. Right? Because we all have, these weird painting stages. I'm just pulling her arm up because, we know she's got an arm that's going to go up. It went a little bit too much into the water, but I'm going to come back and trim that up. I don't have to worry. And I'm just making sure the hair is over something that's flesh tone. On her face, I'm going to definitely paint this in. But to keep some of her features, their size and placement, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just a little bit of my umber onto my brush. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go, there's a little nose here. And we have some little eyes here, and they're about that size. And they're down, we're on this side of her face. And then we get a little mouth. Between, if you remember your facial divide, so how you figure out where to put features on a face is you divide it in half in your eyes, and then you divide in half again, and there's your nose, and you divide from the nose to the chin, and there's your mouth. Basically. Some people will have slightly different proportions, right? And that is where calipers and some other cool tools come into play. But what do I still have information on? I now still have information on the fact that she has features. I haven't lost them. They're sketched in. I know where they are. I'm not going to get lost in the painting later.
Now that steampunk girl was called Love Hurts.
Was she Love Hurts? Are you sure? Because I think Love Hurts was the collage one that I did with the girl with the knife behind her back.
Maybe. Oh, see, the community.
It's family friendly. Don't worry. I know that doesn't sound like it is, but it is.
Yeah, the community was guessing that was the one. So
maybe the steampunk girl. Okay, so does anyone know the steampunk girl? Because that's like Dee's, the brush maker, my brush maker who makes these brushes with me. That's her favorite painting. She's like,
it's one of my favorites too. So
yeah, she just loves it.
We don't get very many redhead paintings from you.
No, I think you wouldn't know this looking at my pink hair, but I'm a natural redhead, strawberry blonde to be precise. And so sometimes I think if you grow up with a hair color, it's less exciting to you. It's like having the name Cinnamon.
A feature.
Again, you'll notice I'm not being too precious about anything because I know I'm going to have to come back and put it back and be about it for a while. But I want to know where stuff is.
Gail says you were right.
Oh, okay, cool. And I'm just putting this down here because I know I'm going to have that. And then I've got to get that rock in. So I'm going to go back into my dark color that I had. And I'll just paint our little rock in. Oh, the little rock. This isn't too bad, is it? Hot mess blocking it in. Right? And why are we okay with a hot mess being blocked in? We're okay because this particular type of painting is going to be layer based, right? We're going to be building this up in layers, creating depth through value and texture and all those interesting things. If you're just wandering in and wondering if I can paint, you may want to check out some of the other stuff I do. Sometimes on Quest, the thumbnail drags in a lot of different people. And if they haven't been here for a while, they really question the directions we are going. I almost was like very nervous about doing this because we were getting like I don't know, for us, like not a bad number of dislikes, but just a higher number than usual.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I'm not sure people are liking the quest. But then I realized it was the struggle that people were having about the reference photo versus the direction we were going, because they were like, I don't want to paint no deer lady. Why is there a deer lady? I don't understand.
You deviated from the reference.
Yeah, greatly. And then there's this whole period of time where it's like this.
The
I mean, like, I'm not
phase.
even being that respectful to my hands.
They definitely look like gestured hands.
I just need to know where these little suckers are. This is all that's going on. I need to know where my water is. I need to know where my hair is. I need to know where my, like our hair is going to come down like that. And that's just going to help me later. And then also, you know, sometimes it helps not having to paint things. I'm going to get some of my green on here and work my pond water a little bit. There is a little bit here where I did need to keep my arm, and so I'm going to come down and trim just so I know where my pond needs to end and begin. Now, after this, I will be paying attention to the direction of my brush strokes, to the value of my brush strokes, and everything that I'm going to do. But right now, at this red hot moment, I can build a whole painting up. Right? And that's important to know because there's a lot of ways to get through a painting. There are umber studies, and that's where you sketch the design in and you very carefully assess values. It's a fantastic way to do it, and you use glazes to build it up. There's doing underpaintings and working your darkest darks and your lightest lights and the ranges in between, layering them up. There's that fantastic sort of daily painter where you put in like a one color ground and you get a brush, and as quickly as you can, you just go value, 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 and get a very loose expressionistic painting. There's a lot of ways to do this. There's not a right, wrong way of doing it. There's just a lot of ways to do it, and you have to find the right one for you. How are we on time, babe?
Good. We're about halfway through our day.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to block in the rocks just a little bit, and then we will call it a day because I know a lot of people are also catching up on last month's.
Yeah.
Quest. So
this is coming together, though.
Huh?
This is really neat. I see the underpainting coming together.
All right. So we know we've got falls, and we know we've got this green. And there's something I'll show you here. We'll put this in the reference. One of the things that I liked here was, and besides the wisteria and the water rushing down, which I thought was fairly terrific, I really, really liked that you would see pops of light on this green. So it's all very muted and pushed back, but then there's a pop, 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 and we're definitely going to be incorporating that. And you can kind of see this, what I mean about the black and green of a fall. Another thing I want you to realize, in your falls, the water isn't going to go diagonal. It can be flat and it can fall down. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I'm gonna
It
pull
can
out.
be flat and it can fall down.
I'll zoom in a bit.
So if we're looking at this to inform ourselves about a fall, and we want to put in a little fall somewhere here, like you might sometimes want to do. Maybe you do.
Maybe.
I do.
I
So
like
I'm
those
gonna.
falls.
I do. I would like to put one in, so I'm going to. So I'm going to get a little of my burnt umber, and it's got my green in it in my little yellow ochre here. And I'm going to sit there and say, let's say that right here, right about here, we've got a little ledge happening. Okay? Very interesting little ledge. And then it can have a little ledge friend, perhaps like right here. You could even, I'm going to load up with some of my glazing medium. Sometimes if you put glazing medium, I've been talking about this lately, into your bristles during the hotter times, or if you're in really dry conditions and you're having trouble with your paint like drying on the brush, it will help slow that down. All right, so I got this there. Let's give it, I like this little rock here, so let's definitely add a little rock of interest, right? She's got a rock here. And now there's a couple little rocks. So a turtle could sun here, turtle could sun maybe perhaps here.
And I'm gonna take down the reference photo so we can see your other reference photo there.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm.
And these are going up on the website, so.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna again strictly do this because these are not the same ratios. I'm just gonna say, hey, if I were doing a waterfall based on this reference photo, what could I do? Well, I could definitely talk about maybe another ledge right here and a ledge here, and maybe there's some soft ledges that are coming out, but they're not all falls, right? So once I know where my ledges are, that's going to tell me a little bit about my water, and I can have branches coming down. And I like this idea of this like planned little ledge. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make some of my ledges bigger and more natural, right? This particular fall was man created. And you can tell because these are pretty uniform bits. So that would be some strange volcanic activity that happened there. Once I have that, I can come in, I can add a little bit of white. I can come and say, oh, let's have some value here. Where's my light going to hit down this fall? It's going to hit like maybe here, put a little here. Oh, maybe some's right here. Little bit, little kiss of it there. Let's kiss a little light right here on this, this particular one. And now we're going to darken it up. Now, in general, black is not my favorite for landscapes, but it's not the idea. Some teachers will say never ever use black.
Why is that?
That's not entirely true. Black is appropriate used in landscapes. There are reasons to use it and there are reasons to not use it, and it's about knowing when to go in. If you use it in everything and all throughout the landscape, it can muddy your painting. And that's why a lot of instructors will say no black for you.
Now,
and it's just about that. It's a lot when you're teaching new people to show them how not to muddy their painting. But we're going to use this just a little.
Oh, cool. Now, Scrapaholic was saying, what are you painting on? Because that doesn't look like a canvas.
Okay, so this, and I love these. This is an ampersand gesso board. These are artist panels. If you're out of the country, they can be a little bit pricey and you may need to DIY your artist panel. But if you're here, you can get them very reasonable. This particular company makes even an economy version that's ready to hang on the wall. But what they do is they make sure that there's nothing in the wood panel that's going to seep into your painting and discolor it over time. And a lot of panels will do that. Like a lot. Not all of them, but there's a lot that will. And some of the brands that will surprise you. And that's the thing you have to be careful about if you make your own, is making sure that you don't get structural induced discoloration.
Yes.
Weird problem to have, but it's one that really messes up a painting. Now I'm going to get into, you guys know how I like me a Cambridge,
Yes.
right?
I mean, brush.
My Cambridge brush. So this is a #4 Cambridge Bright. I just adore these. They're a mix of bristles and synthetics so they don't over soften in my water. And I'm going to kind of work this area a bit and make it more rustic and rocky. Like you can, if you want. So first I'll take a little of my black and my blue. And the reason I like to add my blue to my black is it cools it a bit. And I feel, it is my feeling that this helps me cool the shadows.
I would take that. My habit is to put the picture-in-picture back up. So
Is it?
yeah. So whenever I go to the palette and I don't see picture-in-picture, I put it up just out of force of habit.
So here at this far side, I'm going to darken my ledges just a smidge, right? So some of them are shadowed, and then I'm going to build them up. But I'm going to get that kind of in so that things look like as dark as they are. I love waterfalls. I don't know if anybody else does, but they're just fantastic, I think.
Yeah.
And see, a lot could be going on here that's just in such a dark shadow that you're not really picking it up. Right?
Yeah.
And you can, these could be casting shadows into the water. And then wherever they're going to be hitting in the water, there's going to be bits of fun froth and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of fun opportunity. Getting my glazing medium on there so my brush doesn't dry while I'm scumbling it around and scruffing it around. Scruff, scruff, scruff.
Scruff, scruff, scruff,
Scruff,
scruff.
scruff, scruff, scruff.
Sounds like something the dog would want to do.
I
Scruff,
think,
scruff, scruff, scruff,
I
scruff.
think if a dog painted, this is what a dog would want to do.
Although I have to, now that I've said that, Twix on the end of a stick would make an awesome brush.
Oh my gosh. Take up too much water. We've seen it. We know. So my whole thing, what am I doing? I'm adding shadows and I'm pushing back. So I'm letting some of these ledges come forward and I'm pushing back and some of them in deep shadow. And there's a lot happening on your ledges. So you're going to want to just make sure that they've got that natural stone feeling, even though they're ledgy. And that there's just a deep, 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 deep shadow. Coming up in here, I definitely want to darken this whole area so I can pop a little bit of surprise greenery here and there as I'm painting. Probably, in my case, a little magical, a little floral. We're just going to layer things the way we know plants. Plants like to layer, don't they?
Yeah.
They're little layery fellows. But in this particular painting, you're not subjected to, like, anytime you're painting anything fantasy or magical, you're not subjected to, like, saying, like, if you're painting any of this greenery, to even keeping it green. These could be fantastical. You could base these plants on undersea plants. So just know that as you're working, you have a lot of freedom. All right. And I'm just, again, moving this through and darkening this up. That is always going to be super, super, super fun. For me, anyways. So this nice color makes this really stunning gray. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of white onto my brush. And I'm going to pick a mid-range value. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about these rocks a little bit. A little more. And see how now with this brush it's so scruffy that it has almost this rock texture in and of itself. So you can talk a little bit about how these are granite or more stone-like. And we'll warm them and, just come in like, oh, I'm going to get a little of this. And let's get a little of my yellow ochre on there. And we're just glazing medium up. Now, you don't want them too bright because the water is going to be, and that's going to be the bright thing that is coming down your rock. You know, that's peeking out here and there. And I might even start to talk about this rock a little bit. I can kind of see that it's got a dark side over here. So I might go ahead and get a little black on my brush and a little brown. And say, hey dude, show me your dark side. It'll have to be darker than that. I'm going to go ahead and put out some of my burnt sienna as well, just because I think it's going to be really helpful. And I don't know if I picked it for this one. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm just keep going. And this is what you're doing is you're just saying, hey, I got a little ledge here. And come right there and make this a bit darker. This will pop out because we're going to let some water go there. And you can put out your zinc. The nice thing about the zinc, as I'm always saying in my shows, is that it impacts the lightness value without impacting the hue. And that can be an incredibly useful, subtle effect. Now, one of the things that these ledges have that I think is sort of critical is these little light dark spots that are going on. And I'm going to imply with my soft little zinc more stonework a foot up here. You know, stuff is happening, and when we start dropping water down, that's going to be a big deal. Rinsing out. Now let's take a little bit of our burnt sienna and our phthalo green. Phthalo. Get a little bit of just a smidge of our cat onto it. See how even because of the burnt sienna, it's keeping it from going like too green?
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. Gonna green up the tops of like some of my stone. Because where the sun's gonna hit them, we're gonna see a little. You know, we can green up a little bit of this stone on this side. Because it would have some green, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then I can get some just my yellow ochre, but by not rinsing my brush, the pigment tones the paint. And I'm going to add this lighter yellow value, kind of like right here. Pushing it up. Maybe just tapping in a few places. Because you can't have too much cool. As you would want. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to like just imply something weird and hangy. Not water, just something weird. And drooping down. I'm going to come up here and do similar. These are very distant. Something is growing. Implications that we're doing. And you'll notice that I'm just sort of wiggling my brush and then I'm pulling this down, texturing this color down, to start to talk about what we've got going on up there. Then we get right back into my black. Just make sure that some of this stuff is pushed back into shadow. Back over this. Happily making this work. Now, the next thing I'm going to rinse this out. And you're going to want a brush that's pretty sharp, that gives you a lot of control, lets you move your paint in a predictable manner. I'm going to do a number 2 bright. This is a ruby satin bright. I'm going to get this. I'm going to take my blue and my black. And in these rocks, I'm going to add some tracking.
I'm gonna zoom in on the canvas or the palette, the gesso board. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
On your work so that we can see what you're doing with the brush there.
So I'm just creating these thin, fine fractures. Yeah, we're doing? Of the stone. Little lines. Dang, these little rocks are like shale. Yeah, they seem sturdy, but they're delicate too. There they are. They're delicate too.
Yeah.
She's going to be so pretty when she's done. I just don't think I'm going to be able to resist putting in every flower. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for all I know, I'm going to have little bit, like everything will have a little something.
Well, it should. I would like to see it. And I think we could all just hang out and watch you do it.
Well, my goal for this year's quest is that everybody has, I'm darkening this side again. Just adding a little texture to that. With the brush dirty, I'm going to wipe off. See how I wipe off? And I'm going to get a little of my burnt sienna and my burnt umber together. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to lighten them with a little of my yellow ochre. I'm doing that before I do it with my zinc. I'm going to just try to give this rock some personality. Rocks they need some personality. If you don't give them personality, they just sit there. Wow. So rude. I mean, what are they thinking? I'm going to get some just burnt umber, but I've got a lot of pigment on my brush, and so that's not going to cause me too much trouble. Make sure that I've got some of this happening in here. Now, interestingly in here, I want to get into my zinc white, because it's not going to overpower, what I've got going on. And I don't want it to be very bright, because all the lights and darks of this are going to really pop, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if I have too much, I just wiped off on my towel. I do that a lot. Like when I have too much paint, I wipe it off. Just a habit that I'm into. See how this is starting to have lots of, and I'm going back and forth here, sort of rounding this space. A little more of the ochre into my brush. I'm working it through. If I need some glazing medium, I have so much pigment on here, it's sort of darkening it, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little zinc.
We're such a couple. You'll say something, and I'll be watching you, and I answer you. I'm like, yeah, I totally see it. I'm sitting here watching it.
No, I like that.
And
I know they're there, but you're the only one who can actually talk to me right now, so that's a super helpful thing. When I can...
And I'm not trying to answer for everyone, but I just realized that, here I am. I'm like, well, yeah, I totally see it. But I'm like, I don't know if they do. I kind of guess, because if I see it, they should see it. But,
So I'm taking my dirty brush into my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre.
Now, we're going to break this up into multiple parts, right?
Yes. We are not going to marathon for like 12 hours. Miss Mermaid. That would be very stressful for everybody. They'd be like, this isn't cool, man.
12 hours of coy mermaid goodness.
Yeah, I expect her to be. She's going to be intensive. And that's something, when you're trying to do more involved projects and you are estimating budget, don't forget to factor in the budget of time. Especially if it's a gift or you're planning for it to go to a show. One of the things that I see artists really kind of struggle with, I'm just tapping. I've got put the ochre here and a little bit here, a little bit there, there. And I guess I'll just add some right here, like that something is a foot. And then I'm going to go right into my black. See, I'm just working the brush through the black, and I'm going to get a little bit of my white, and I'm going to start graniting this stuff up like you do. Because you do, actually.
So you figure we'll probably try another 10 minutes or so on today?
Yeah, I think we'll go just a little bit longer. We've got some rocks in, and that's what we're doing. We're putting in a little rock.
Yeah.
Rocks are involved, and you want your rocks to feel rocky. You know, Dora would say they're rocky rocks.
You gotta have layers.
Yeah, rocks for sure.
These acrylic rocks are sedimentary layer rocks. I'll say it right. The sediment, it's like layers. That's because we have to layer the paint. Um,
Let's see how. I'm going to get back and I'm going to look at the. See, so you can start to see them popping a little bit now.
Geologist humor can be kind of dry.
Let's go, John, until we've got the water coming down. I want to put in a couple of highlights. So I'm going to get into my white and actually, weirdly, my zinc. And I'm going to tip it with just a little of my yellow ochre. And I'm going to add a little highlight there, maybe. We're going to find a couple places on the rock face that caught some light.
Sorry, I zoomed back in too much, I think.
See how we're catching a little light here and there?
Yeah.
So now we have some nice value, we have some nice pops of light, and we've got to plan our path for water coming down. So if you're sticking pretty much to a reference, you're always pretty good, but if you ever deviate, you'll have to do this. So you've got to decide the path of your water, right? I know I can drop some water coming here, right? That's for sure. And that means it's pretty easy for me to drop some water there. And I can come right next to this reflection and drop some. This can drop here or here. I'm going to want to keep my waterfall sort of focused here. And since that's true, I might drop some right there. The water is going to fall off and come down, and you always have to apply a certain amount of gravity. I'm going to take the waterfall definitely there. There's a bunch coming there. We're going to bring some here and a heavy amount because I like this, like right here. Just all around that sort of rock coming down. Does that sound fun?
Yeah.
Back to your brush. So I'm going to get my blue and a little bit of my black and more to the blue mixed together. I'm going to get my titanium white. And I'm going to pay attention to what I talked about. Now I can cause a little bit to be here, and maybe I see some here, but they're going to go down. If I've got some here, it's going to come down. Might even splash it. And then I'll take it down here, and maybe it's coming down like that. There we go. I've got some nice little water. See, I'm just pulling it down with the brush and letting the brush do some variables. Work my brush, get my white. I don't want it too light yet because if it's too light, I'm not going to be able to make the water effect. Pull that down. Very dry brush, isn't it? Lots of the rock is showing through. And I'm going to splash. Definitely bring some of this around here, huh?
Yeah.
And there's got to be some of that happening there. We know it kind of came off there. Isn't this a nice waterfall that just suddenly popped up behind her? And we can waterfall anytime we want. You can fall if you want to. You can. And I think it's okay to have a couple places that just trickle a bit, you know, unexpectedly, if they need to. It's always nice. So once I have that, I'm going to get my titanium white and kind of get a little stronger on my brush, a little bit. And I'm going to add some highlights on the little edge here to the fall. I'll pay close attention to where they're picking up and dropping. Leaving some dark values that I put in because I don't want to lose my dark. You can't lose your dark side. Happy May the 4th, by the way.
May the 4th be with you.
It was. I sent out a playlist this morning of all the May the 4th videos, not even just mine, like all the good ones on YouTube. I was like, these are all good. The only one that had kind of like a little thing about it was the epic rap battles of history. I just thought people should like maybe age restrict that channel. But just, you know, like for little ones.
Yeah, it's a 13 plus for sure.
Yeah. But funny and really good Star Wars.
Yes.
Not too many highlights. I could do one. You really see this up here. We can highlight this much stronger right here. See us building up. Look at that. So now we've got some falls happening. I'm going to rinse out a little bit and go one more layer, almost just white. You know, a little bit of the pigment will pick up in it. Don't know why I hold my hand behind my back when I'm painting today. I'm painting one-handed. One hand behind my back.
Now, because you're standing so close to the canvas, or the palette board in this case.
Yeah, I'm holding my brush too close.
You hold it. You end up holding that a lot closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I noticed earlier when you were sketching, you were really holding far back and standing a lot farther back away.
Yeah, so I could take it in and find its balance.
And you know that's something that you talk more about on these kinds of shows. So I was just kind of noticing that.
All right. So how's our water looking? Is it falling yet?
It's looking like it's falling.
Is it falling? Grab a little more white and say this water is really following.
You were saying it's really important to have horizontal water.
It needs to fall straight down or it won't feel like a fall. If it goes too much at an angle without cause, like we've got a lip that this water could be, you know, coming off of, right?
Yeah.
But if we didn't have a lip, and now I'm going to sort of tap a little bit of this down. Maybe a little bit up here. Not too much. Having these little highlights down. Coming here, there could be a little bit of something is happening. And we'll be defining that little rock a little more, but he's kind of thought in. But now we've got a bit of a fall. We will work the splash and more of this next time and continue to build out her world. I think we got her blocked in. I think we know the direction that we're going. I'll get those references on the website. Remember, a big project, an overwhelming project, anything you're doing in life, painting, anything that you've got to do is only achievable if you just do it one step at a time. If you try to take the whole thing in sometimes, especially if you're not feeling totally confident, it can stop the journey before it starts. So just remember to set your expectations. You're like, this is a one step at a time thing. It's going to have some weird moments. I'm going to have some weird moments. But as long as I don't get up and get to the end, I'm going to do better than I expect. And you're going to learn something from this and everything that you do that's going to be of value to you in the long run. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.